Oh my God, I hate this thing. Haven't I hit that? Oh, wow. This is exciting. I have been waiting for this and I'm red hot today.
Right on, man.
I have been ever since the Army published its new ACFT standards about like an hour or two ago. I've been red hot.
Yeah, I've been mad. I'm not even in anymore.
Oh, Jesus. Talk about mind. Go ahead, Jim.
You guys, it's good. I'm glad you guys got all this energy. It's awesome. I'm going to try to hang with you here.
I mean, I got coffee too, so.
Yeah, I got Vietnamese coffee.
Vietnamese coffee?
Yeah, it's like
where in the fuck did you get that?
It's 2 shots of slow drip espresso inside of what is it? The milk, begins with the C.
Coconut milk?
No, the condensed milk. Condensed milk. Bam. There you go. Yeah.
Damn. Is that a Tammy production?
It is a Tam production. She's really good at making them, and it's delicious.
She would have been making milk if she was just pregnant.
Yeah, she's not though. Gotcha.
We started this podcast just in time for us both to almost get pregnant. Well, I did. My half did, but yours didn't.
Okay.
Jeez.
Excellent.
Thank God. I talk about mindset stuff. That Army shit had me. So, Jim, if you're not familiar, the Army came out. I know Rich has done a little bit of stuff with the Army, but I don't know if they ever talked to him about the PT test.
Yep.
Where they took it from simplified run, push-up, sit-ups. Got 2 minutes for the push-up, sit-ups. Do as many as you can. Run was a 2 mile time, and they switched it to. I mean, the Army is a bunch of closeted CrossFitters, right?
Yep. I'm familiar with this.
So they put in this new PT test. What was it, Ken? Like 2 years ago, or so like that, where they started developing. And they came, and then they were like, "Hey, the scores are a little lopsided right now. We got 85% of this one section, right? Half the Army that's failing because of more or less like 2 events. Then we have this other side that difference between their 85% fail is what the other side is failing. So odd. So they tried to come out with I think it was more of like a unisex, everybody, like depends upon your job. This is how we'll fight and win our wars, like by fitness.
Right.
Well, then people still didn't pass. And
one leg tuck.
One leg tuck. Just
one leg tuck.
Leg tuck. That's all you have to do is bring your knees or your elbows to meet your knee somewhere above the knee and below the quad.
Right.
Somewhere in there. You just got to tap one time.
Right.
Hang from a pull-up bar. It's not that bad. But there are some people that struggle a lot for it.
Right.
What Army recently just did is they published new standards. Well, the new standards went back to the same shit that they said they got so much flack for, which was male-female standards. Male standards are up here. Female standards are down there. The hell here, spam risk. And so we had a bunch of friends that have been on the podcast. We've served with them. They've been in Colorado with us. Everybody's pretty much just in agreement that we went to the point where we said, hey, instead of towing the line, we're going to erase that line. We're going to draw this new line and make it a rainbow line.
Yeah, we're just going to.
Right.
But now the new line is right about where our feet already are.
Yeah.
I got you.
Now we don't have to work it off to do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So as a former captain and then an NCO in the Army, being our jobs to train soldiers and do the thing.
Sure.
Do I train my soldiers to the standard anymore? Or is the standard going to change because of my soldiers?
Yeah, that's what's happening. It's so weird.
The best quote I've heard in a long time that kind of goes along with it is like, don't prepare the road for your children, but prepare your children for the road.
Yeah, I like that.
And so mindset wise, what we'll talk about a little bit today is I was like, this has got to be the worst. Like we're playing not to lose mindset. We're playing not to have to chapter people out of the military, but unfortunately,
pretty much,
I think that's still going to happen.
The politics of it all is, politics, and then what's practical and what what it takes to win something or to fight and all of that. Those are 2 very different things.
And I think it's also it's integrity at the lower levels where it's like, do I have to spend extra time doing PT with my soldiers to ensure that they're ready to go? And then you have soldiers who are paper pushers for the most part.
Sure.
I kind of am one of them for the medical service branch. And you have to look at those guys and be like, hey, if the guy in front of you or the gals up there on the front lines drop out, if there's enough of them dropping down, it's your job to go out and pick up the weapon and go do the same service. But we write it down in publishings and in doctorates or directorates, but then when it comes time to doing it, now
yeah, that's a huge challenge. All right, so you guys both are out now.
No, I'm in.
Oh, you're still in. Okay.
Mm-hmm. I'm out. I got out in October after 12 years. Yeah, and I was like, yeah, it's time.
He's got his full benefits and he's got his a retired Army hat. Which one of the words do you have written on your hat, Ken?
No, 2 of them. I guess I got 2. I think the rule is once you see 4 uniform changes or 2 wars, it's time to get out. Like
that's fair. I've seen 2.
I've seen 4 uniform changes and 2 wars.
2 deployments. So
yeah, 2 deployments, 2 wars. So.
Well, I mean, it's technically 1 more. Let's be honest.
They do it in phases. So operation this, operation that account is different. But no, this gym, like honestly, I used to do Mayhem a long time ago, and I did not know in those days that you offered a mindset course. I would see the emails from it and I go, oh, that's pretty cool. And I'd be so deep into, the volume of training. I'm like, you know what? I just want to go to sleep now.
Yeah. But Jim, 2 years ago about Mayhem Mindset after I heard it on their podcast.
But what is Mayhem Mindset, Jim? Like, what is that?
Well, I guess the kind of story goes back. This is my 18th year of doing, athlete or player development. And I came out of the football world. So I worked early in life at a couple of different universities. And what is Mayhem Mindset was simply just born out of my own life experience. Mm-hmm. What is now the process that we call Mayhem Mindset really came from my journey to kind of figure out who the hell I was. And really honestly, I mean, it starts, I'm face down depressed. My wife's left me. She's cheating with some other dude. I got 2 little girls who are 3 and 5. And in that really tough spot, probably the first time that I guess you could say that real adversity had really tested me, I just didn't know who the hell I was. I didn't know how to go forward, and emotion and the momentum of life circumstances had really just kind of overwhelmed me, kind of like maybe just a wave in the ocean, and just buried me. And then I didn't know what to do next. And so literally I had put my girls to sleep. I guess my kids are probably your age, 29, 26, something like that. Now they're grown up doing good, but and I literally I just wanted to take my mind off my shit show of a life. And I popped in the videotape. I'm old now, you guys. Come on, I'm 50. So.
A VCR? I used to have a VCR. Yeah. Don't feel bad.
I had one. I used to tape over shows.
Yeah, I think I still have one somewhere. I don't know, somewhere around here, but
that's got to be a collector's piece
for sure. I popped in the Gladiator, the movie Gladiator, and it was literally. Have you guys seen it? Of course you have.
Yes.
You're American men. What am I saying? I apologize for even asking that question.
We drink our coffee black.
Yeah.
Except for this one.
Yeah.
I popped that thing in, and it was at the scene where Maximus is standing in front of Commodus, and at this point, he's the slave, fighting on the Colosseum floor, and you remember the scene where he pops his helmet off and he says, "My name is Maximus Aurelius Decimus." And I'm sitting there on the couch in my house thinking about my life and what to do next and what's going to happen. And in that moment, I heard Maximus, when I listened to what he said, I heard him say, "This is who I am. This is what I believe. And this is what I'm going to do." That's what I kind of heard him say as I just listened to all that. And so I was angry. I was bitter. Mad, all the things that go with that. And I made a commitment in that moment that I was going to define myself. I wasn't going to read a book. I wasn't going to listen to anybody. There was no other human being on the face of the planet going to tell me about where I was going or who I was as a human. And I was going to figure out how to define myself. And I was either going to I was either going to move forward with whatever that was going to be, or I really didn't know. I didn't know what was next for my life, other than I knew I had to take care of those little girls. And I did believe in that. So it took me about 6 months, and I followed my heart is what I did. So I just got honest for the first time in my life. I knew that I had to write all this stuff down, and what I'm getting ready to say is it's so true. It almost seems stupid to say it, but we know now based on the science of who we are as humans, that if you got to take what's in your head, and if you can't speak it and you can't write it, you can't live it. We just know that. Yep. So you got to be able to articulate. Yeah. So I literally wrote a code for my life. I wrote a code. I decided what was purpose in my life, and I put it in a statement. I organized 10 core values that I believed in, that were mine, and I defined them my way, so it was authentic. And I created a mission statement for myself. And I had a buddy draw me up a crest, like a family crest, and I tattooed it on my arm. And then I committed to from that point forward in my life, every choice or decision would be filtered through what was purpose, what my values were, and I was going to hold myself accountable to this mission statement. And it wasn't for any other human being. I called it the Strength and Honor Code after the movie, and holy crap, my life straightened out and good things started to happen to me. And I never made a choice or a decision that I didn't run past what I said I believed in. And now almost 20 years later, it evolved from that for my life to, working at a couple of universities and kind of growing it and shaping it and building that process. Then to having all kinds of clients in all kinds of different sports. Rich was a client of mine initially. He was a CrossFit champion already when I came into his life, but he used what we call Mayhem Mindset now to really kind of lay out his future when he retires. We make this mistake. A lot of athletes that I've worked with make the mistake that they think that their sport is purpose. That's it. And then when their sport's gone from them, they don't know what the hell to do after that. And so Rich was, to his credit, able to go, hey man, like, I cannot allow CrossFit to define me completely. I've got to be able to look past it and plan what the next 20 years, the next 30 years of my life are. So
at some point he has to be able to let it go and move on to some next phase. Yeah.
And what you just said, Stephen, there's nothing wrong with what you just said. I just believe that purpose exists in who we are. It's in our design. It's not in what we do. It's not in the do. It's in our design. And we can take in my game, in the Mayhem Mindset, in order to make this as something that we can break apart for purposes of defining yourself. I call it who you be. That's your values, your talents, and this idea of purpose, and what you do, the job or the task. So many people in our culture chase the do, what to do next, what to do next, what to do next, hit and miss.
The Army has that too for leaders. It has the be, no, do qualities that are also under your NCO core, and then the NCO our evaluations every year. You have to have shown something to your leadership that they can define on a piece of paper that's like, he understood the be, know, and do of his job and his profession. And then there's examples, presence and intellect and character. Were you able to lead, develop, and achieve things? And that's how our evaluation splits up. But
I've never heard that before.
Without purpose, I don't know if either one of you guys have kind of noticed this, but throughout society, like the idea of like owning things and purpose and direction, as you said, is like a part of who we are. I think a lot of people have quoted recently where we have kind of like a society where everybody wants equal. Everybody doesn't want to have to work harder than the next person or the person beside them to get the same. But if you take away that competitiveness to get what you want, there's no purpose left. And this whole thing that we do every day would go up in flames faster than anybody could fucking see it coming. If everybody just like, hey, every day I'm getting the same paycheck as the guy next to me, as the person above me in rent, all our apartments are all going to be the same. Everybody would riot and this place would burn down fucking quick.
Yeah, equity versus equality.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's
equality of opportunity and equity of outcome, two very different things.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I felt when I got out of the Army. Like, I really thought that what I did was I made the mistake of wrapping up so much of who I was to the Army that I didn't realize that, well, I kind of have a similar story to yours, Jim. You know, I got cheated on by my ex-wife, and then I stayed for a long time. And then I was like, all right, cool. I'm going to stay here for 6 more years. And then I ended up going, man, that was stupid. And we got divorced. And, you know, now I understand why some of those things that happened in the Army, or some of the ways that I thought about the Army, reflected over into my relationship, because it's not always one person's just fault. It takes 2 people to kind of get to a destination, you know? So leaving out of the Army, I felt like I didn't know what I was going to be, because I was like, man, I was using CrossFit to get in really good shape for the Army. And, you know, when we have to go fight a war, this is what I, you know, train for. And now I've taken CrossFit as more to be like this thing where I have one uncomfortable thing per day to do. At least one thing that I do per day is going to suck. And it makes everything else in the day seem like it's more positive. You know, I can look at something that I think is harder than that workout I did and go, you know, it's really not that bad. You know, sitting down in this meeting trying to discuss metrics is not that bad. I just don't want to do it, you know, things of that nature. So
and that's the same as that's the same as like people who, like, there's all those movies out where like cops retire, and as soon as they're done with the job they've done for like their entire life, they don't know what to do with themselves. And in real life, you have a high suicide rate amongst communities of people like yourself, Jim, who are like up there at the point of close to retirement, and they've worked their entire life, and every day there's another purpose to go out and get more so you can put more on the table. But then you're an empty nester, then the job, like, you're going to get paid for the rest of your life, but you don't have to do the same amount. And then it's like, am I going to get it? Am I still being who I am? And then people get trapped up in their own head, I think, for the most part, especially in the Army. When you get out, and, you know, we have specialists who come in for 4 years and like, hey, I'm here for 4 years to get my money so I can go to school. Okay, those are the easiest soldiers to get by with, right? They'll do whatever you ask them to. They'll meet all the standards. They're like, hey, I am here for this purpose and I'm out. Good, got it. Then you have the ones that are wishy-washy, that as soon as, I don't know, they get in trouble for with 26% APR, and they get in for it, and then you're like, hey, man, you shouldn't do that. And they're like, well, I'm getting out of the Army. This is stupid. I should do what I want. What are you going to do when you get out? I don't know. I'm going to go back to school. That's a common answer for all of them. And when they're go back to school.
I work with people from all different walks of life. Work with a lot of soldiers, a lot of cops, you know, dudes that make $100 million and the barista at the coffee shop. So what I believe is that purpose is not in what you do. Purpose is in your design. And it's our responsibility as individuals to do the work to understand that.
So when you say design, do you mean like how you do something as opposed to what you're doing?
No, I mean how you're wired.
Oh, okay.
How you're wired.
Like, Ken, you're somebody who's designed to go out and get it every day.
Yeah.
You'll work, whether it's in front of a computer screen or on a rower or under heavy duress. You are designed to go get it every day.
Yeah.
What we do in this process is I have my clients really define themselves from their heart, literally from your nature and your heart, how you're wired up, out through your strongest beliefs or your core values, and then connect that to routine. Here's what science has taught us about being a human being. We all deal with emotion first. We feel first.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That's the limbic part of your brain that fires first. The second part of your brain that fires is the neocortex, and the neocortex is putting language to emotion. So every human being who's alive right now feels, and then they have to filter in some way, and then they have to try to think before they can respond or act. So in order for you not to be somebody who's more driven by emotion and momentum, you're more driven by your strongest beliefs. You got to know what the hell they are. So if I were to ask you in 30 seconds or less to define yourself, if I could flip the camera, stick you in front of the world, 1, 2, 3, go, talk to me about purpose, you won't be able to do it. Neither of you could do it. I promise you, you can't. You can't give me purpose narrowed down to your heart, 10 core values that represent your strengths, your weaknesses, and your ideals, and then a mission statement that's yours, not the Army's.
I wouldn't use one anyways.
All right, Stephen, you're up. You ready?
Dang, got you. That's why I shut up.
First of all, let me say, I was getting a little bit of goosebumps because I remember the Instagram sponsored like commercials that had Jim coming out on them. And I don't know, wherever I was, whenever I heard it, I would just turn it all the way up and I would let it play. I can't tell you how many times my wife is like, what the fuck are you watching over there? I'm like, I'm just listening to it. It gives me chills. Because then you see Rich in the background, like as he's like winning games or like doing workouts, and I'm like, oh man, sitting in this 2-bedroom apartment eating this sandwich makes me seem like a piece of shit.
Well, here's what we could do. Here's what I know about you two guys already. Here's what I already know by listening. If you did this work, and it's not, the question that I've asked you is not fair, because I call mindset a game, and I'm asking you to play a game that you're not prepared to play. We could sit down and we could do this work. You could in several hours really lay that out and map that out. Here are the 3 components to be able to cast a vision for your life every day. First, you have to understand what your identity is, your personal identity. Why are you on this planet? Who the hell are you? What does that really mean? And you have to do the work to establish that for your life. Mm-hmm. If you don't, well, then somebody else will.
Yeah.
Period. Yeah, that's true. Somebody else will do that.
Because somebody else will give the perception of who you are by telling you what they think of you.
Culture will, somebody will do that. But you need to understand what your identity is. If you don't know who the hell you are as a person, then you won't know how you fit in your family. You won't know how you fit in team. You won't know how you fit in culture. So you got to know that stuff about who you are. And it's your responsibility to figure that shit out, not be told that.
Yeah.
Second piece, you got to know what your strongest beliefs are. Here, I'm getting ready to say something to you. It's just as true as gravity. This right here, falling right here, gravity. What I'm getting ready to say to you is just as true. Every human being on the face of the planet is trying to make their biggest choices and decisions based on their strongest beliefs. You're trying to do it.
I'm trying to do it right now.
Yeah.
We're always trying to do it. You know,
I don't know if I should buy a house or stay in this apartment.
There you go. All right. Your biggest choices and decisions based on a strong belief. So if you haven't done the work and you can't tell me what those beliefs are, then it's really hard to use them in the filtering of the thought process. The third piece to setting and casting a vision for your life every day is connecting that to a routine. So that's staying motivated, that's setting goals and habits, putting systems in place, all those kinds of things. Unfortunately, in the culture we live in, that's where most people major. They spend most of their time. For example, Mayhem Athlete, that's a part of a great routine. How do you stay motivated? People want to know. They want to read books. They want to be told all about that. You tell me how to do it. Hey, Rich, tell me how to be competitive.
I want to know that Instagram life.
That's
right.
Funny
whatever that is.
Yeah.
That's people don't know. What do you mean? Why?
It's funny you say that, because I asked on the last podcast, I asked Leo, I was like, man, motivation will run out very quickly. It's like pouring a little bit of kerosene on top of some sticks and the motivation. But if you have the discipline to do the thing every day, then it's you, regardless of if you feel like it or not, if you're motivated, you're going to keep stepping up the hill with purpose.
And it was slightly unfair. We also asked Leo the same question that you asked us.
Yeah.
I asked him, I was like, hey, Leo, outside of CrossFit, he's like the fittest guy in Nevada. He's got a whole bunch going for him. He has a mindset that sounds, through a podcast, it sounds terrific. It sounds like he's an up and coming, like Rich.
Mm-hmm.
But when we ask him, like, hey, outside of that, who are you? Who is Leo?
He was dumbfounded. He was like,
he's like, I don't do anything else. This is it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, are you about integrity? Are you about helping other people? Yeah. About, the motivation of life? He was like,
so think about what you just said. Let's just stop and break it down, because this is like, think about in the jobs that you've been in, definitions and language are important.
Yeah, words are important.
If you don't know what an AMRAP is, I don't give a shit how fit you are. You're 2 rounds down before you figure out what it is at 3, 2, 1, go. I don't care how fit you are.
Yeah.
We have to have language for our life, right? So you said integrity. Integrity is a fairly common core value. Yep. Most people believe in that. That's one that we could, I would guess that the three of us, that would be an overlapping core value. We would all have that in common in some way or the other. So if you're going to teach someone to power clean, what's the first most important thing you're going to teach them?
Ooh, I'm honestly, after level 1, I'm trying to see if they can even move up and down correctly.
Mm-hmm.
To do like a basic air squat.
Okay. Go ahead. What?
Jim.
He's telling you to go ahead.
For me?
Oh, no,
yeah. I just ask them. First I'd ask them, do you have prior experience doing this? Have you ever tried this before? Are you hurt?
Do you know what a squat clean or a power clean is?
Do you know what do you define that as? Like, what the heck is that to you? And they're like, oh, I don't even know what it is. Then I have to show them.
I grab a really big wipe and I wipe real hard.
Yeah. So that's right. So we want to evaluate all that. Now I'm talking about technically, we're going to teach them the first right thing to do, or the first movement, or the very first thing. Let's say we give them a PVC pipe because we know enough not to give them any weight. We don't want them to get hurt, right? We want to teach them a motor skill. What's the very first thing that we have to teach them?
Stance.
The very first thing. Yeah. Where's your feet, man? That's the first thing, right? PVC pipe.
We need one of those buttons. It's like a dinger or something. It's like, I got that.
Winner.
100%.
Myself yet, but I got that one right.
We're gonna talk to them a little bit about where their feet go and why that's important, because nothing else matters. Nothing.
Yeah, you can't literally do anything else other than grab.
You're gonna put any weight on that later. We're gonna work on motor skill, bar path, all that crap. Nothing else even matters. This is what identity and values are to your life. They're where your feet go.
Oh.
Everything else after that is something that we're practiced and working on. But man, your setup to your day or to your life is this understanding of identity and values.
Hey.
I know who I am and I know what I believe in. Feet in the right spot.
Yeah.
And unfortunately in the culture, like there's nothing wrong with the Army telling soldiers who they need to be inside that job. But what happens when you're not a soldier anymore? What happens when you're not a cop anymore? What happens when you're not a CrossFit athlete anymore?
Man. I got to tell you from experience, like getting out of the Army and they tell you this SFL TAP Soldier for Life transition assistance program bullshit. It's not what you think it is. It's not as well put together as people would think. They literally say, okay, cool. You're going to sit through these couple of briefings. I hope you have a job lined up. I hope you have some options. If you don't, here's, a website that you can look on and maybe find some jobs. And they don't talk to you about the shit you've been through. They don't tell you to go to see a behavioral health counselor to, kind of talk about a few things, because getting out is traumatic. Like I was
you're on your own.
Yeah, I was very convinced, because you're leaving a welfare system to go out into the real world. And I thought for the longest, I was like, man, my kids are going to starve and I'll be homeless. What the hell am I going to do? I had no idea, no clue. I had no tools, really. I had degrees, I had diplomas and things like that, but I don't know what the real world's like.
Granted, for perception purposes, that program is also a lot about what you put into it. Where like you got soldiers that are coming out of the Army that were probably any branch realistically. They don't have a degree. They haven't worked on the degree. They don't have an idea of what they really want to do. They think, well, okay, because the GI Bill will pay for my rent and give me food money and possibly pay me what I used to be paid. That's just an extension while I get to go to college. And then at the end of college, I'll get a job because I'm prior military and somebody will hire a veteran or X, Y, and Z. And they're just going
to think about, Stephen, I'm going to stop you. I want to stop you for a second. There's 100% nothing wrong with what you just said. 100%. No. And you could keep talking for 20 minutes about that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And you wouldn't be wrong.
No.
You 100% would be wrong. And this is what happens to me. I get people standing in front of me or coming to me all they're talking to me about what I should do next, what am I going to do next?
Yep.
What do I know? What do I understand? Without this understanding of what I'm describing.
Mm-hmm.
Who am I?
Yeah.
Identity. And what do I believe in? Because those two things are integral and key to deciding what to do next.
Hey man,
That's
the next
crazy
time
because
I'm soldiers, I'm referring them to Mayhem
Yeah.
Mindset.
to Mayhem Mindset.
There you go.
But
That's the counseling right there.
like I haven't like I've said this to myself. I've been doing this the past year, 2 years, what you just said, and I've learned a few things. One of the first things I learned very early is that, and they said it in Batman last night. It was what he at the end when the Joker was talking to
Now wearing hockey pads.
talking to the Riddler, he said that what increases in value the less you have of it. And he was like, friends. And I was like, oh, my circle doesn't need to be huge. It just needs to be small enough and have people that are like-minded that'll support me in the things that I do. Cool. That was the first thing. The second thing was, I shouldn't
take what you just said. Stop right there.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna coach the hell out of you today. That's all we're gonna do.
Do it.
I've been so pumped for this.
Take what you just said. Take what you just said and break it down. Take what you just said and break it down in my.
I didn't even fucking remember what he just said.
Identity, values, and routine.
Yeah.
Identity, values, and routine. Your question was about identity. Friendship, is that not a value?
It is.
Mm-hmm.
Describe to me what that means to you. No right or wrong answers here. What do you mean when you say friendship, and what does that include in your life?
Oh, this is gonna be real good. I guess somebody I know that people aren't unconditional, but someone that is as close to unconditional as they could get. Like I could commit a murder and they're still there for me. Like they don't have.
Hey, whose car are we taking?
Yeah, exactly. Like not even making them culpable. Just they're like, oh, you did this thing. When you go to jail, I'll still write you every day, man. You're still my friend. Cool. That's one of the ways I
think about what you just said and how authentic that is. That is that's you. That's an authentic definition of what friendship means to me. And so what I just heard you say is you make some of your biggest choices and decisions based on the value of the friendships that you have in your life. And you started out by saying it's not that big.
Like starting a podcast.
It's smart, like starting a podcast. This silly man.
One of my core values is family.
Define yours then, Jim. Tell the world about
it. Don't even blame
No, reverse. I'm gonna hit the mirror. Here's a mirror, Jim.
No,
he's been brushing his teeth with this shit.
Family, well, and it's easy. And remember, we want this to be authentic. We're not trying to read something. It's something that's supposed to be practical and that you've defined, but it works in your life. So I've practiced this for a long time.
Yeah, we don't want you to publish something like that.
With my wife and my wife and my kids, and then it works out to the people that are in my inner circle of people, and then it works out from there. And what I'm saying to you is I make most of my biggest choices and decisions in life based on an anchor value of family. What I'm going to do today in my life, they figure in and they matter. It's not something I'm paying lip service to. It really matters. Yeah. I work with 12 values and I update these values every year, and I move new values in and move values out so that my value system is always growing and breathing. You should never be done.
Yeah.
You guys are married or not married?
Married.
About to get married again.
Okay. All right. Kids, no kids?
2.
1 on the way.
Okay. So I want you to think about your lives. Think about how, if you said family was a core value to you, think about how that value changes over time. What did it mean to you, Steve? Can I call you Steve or is it Steven?
Steve. Steve's fine. Steven was my dad.
It just says Steven on your tag.
It's nah.
What did family mean to you? Think about what it meant before you got married.
Mm-hmm.
Think about what it meant after you got married.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting ready to experience a change when you have kids.
Yeah,
because that happens for sure. There's something there.
It already does. It already has.
Yeah. I got grandkids, so this idea, this definition of family, it grows. It happens to be one of my anchor values, and I pay attention to it. It's not something I pay lip service to. So I work with 11 values right now: fight, work, hope, faith, team, family, excellence, purpose, responsibility, love, and freedom. Those are my 10 core values this year. And they're not just 10 cool words. They actually represent my strengths, my weaknesses, and my ideals. Mm-hmm. There are categories for these. So they're not just bullshit words that are stuck on a wall somewhere behind me. This is actually stuff that I'm using every day. And I'm so practiced at those that whether I'm competing, it helps me actually. Let me use Rich as an example.
Perfect.
Rich Rich is so I've worked with athletes, world champion MMA fighters, Super Bowl champion football players. I mean, I've been around it. Rich is the most competitive person I've ever worked with. If you were to ask Rich Froning a question like, hey, help me be more competitive, Rich doesn't understand that.
I really hope I get the chance to ask him that someday.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that, Jim?
I just want to ask him some questions.
We're sitting in a Q&A at a train with Rich, and invariably somebody will say, hey, Rich, can you please tell me how to be more competitive? Like, how do I do that? Rich Froning's not trying to be more competitive. He's trying to be less competitive. Compete leaks out his eyes.
Yeah.
He's an asshole when he's playing, wiffle ball.
Yes.
So his nature, remember I said purpose is in your design. His nature is to have to move and to have to compete. It pours out of him. 52
card pickup, he probably owns everybody.
Period, end of story. It's on if it's time to compete. As he's grown, that nature and the nurture, how he grew up and how his heart is wired, that connected to doing, capital D-O, lowercase I-N-G, the right thing, like CrossFit, were the components to make him a world champion.
Yes. Oh no, go ahead, finish.
No, you go ahead, ask the question.
But you're saying that, are you kind of insinuating and kind of hitting to the point that it is not possible for you to build that competitive nature? You have to be kind of wired to do it based on like heuristics and things that have happened in your past.
Yes, that's like Tom Brady. You can't coach somebody to be like Tom Brady and have a chip for 23 years.
I think so the correct answer is you can build that. You can build to compete in your life. You can. And this is what the guy who shows up at the Train with Rich is actually asking. He's saying, Mr. Froning, I'm not as competitive as you. Help me try to do that. Mm-hmm. The point that I'm trying to make is, in Rich Froning, that is literally his design as a human being. It's not the guy who's asking the question, because he wouldn't be asking the freaking question if it was. Yeah. He's trying to figure out how to get motivated and to do that, and maybe try to learn something from Rich. So we're all wired up different. And this is what I'm saying about identity. You got to know what that is. Mm-hmm. You have to understand what that is. In your identity, Rich Froning, as he started to understand this about his life and understand that ability or that need to have to move and compete, it exists outside of CrossFit. It was born in him when he was 7.
Yep.
And then he was racing around with 27 little cousins, and they were all trying to figure out who was the best.
That shit
every day wild. Of his entire life.
That's like 2 whole football teams.
100%.
That is odd, because I grew up somewhat the same way. It was 12 cousins between us, and we all lived down the street from each other in like this big L-shaped lane. We would go outside and go run in the woods and things like that. But I never thought about how that transitioned over to not even just CrossFit, like my Army career and how I approach things. And people told me a lot. Like, I don't think Steve ever knew this, but everybody at work was like, he's an asshole. I don't want to talk to him. But then when they got to talk, no, I'm saying you never saw this because you never were one of my soldiers or anything. But like people would say to me, oh, he's an asshole. And then they would talk to him. They go, oh, no, he's actually a pretty nice person. Like he wants to help me. But, whenever we did something competitive, I would try very hard. I'm like, yeah, we're going to win. We're going to do this. But I don't know how much of that kind of draws a similarity between, I guess, not just me and Rich, but any person in Rich, that guy that raised his hand, what was the response Rich gave him?
Well, he, in the beginning, before he really kind of was able to break this down, the question we're having right now, or this conversation we're having, is about identity. Yep. We're talking about specifically about his identity. And if we compare his identity, and he's defined part of his identity as the need to compete, it's not analogous to everybody. It would be to the three of us. There are parts of that in our nature that are similar to his, for sure, but that's not in everybody.
No.
Not in most people, actually.
And a lot of the people that do have it, it's for a different reason. Rich may just be literally just to compete. There may be some people who are like, I need to compete so that I can feel like I'm like other people or so that I feel like I belong to a certain thing. Rich probably just wants to compete because he just wants to do things very well.
He has three words when he went through mindset that define his identity: to move, to compete, and to protect.
Ooh, I like that.
This is literally the way what he says is the nature of his heart, how his heart beats. It doesn't matter who he is, or it doesn't matter what his job is. Those are things that have to happen in his life. And it's crazy because it is absolutely 100% how he's hardwired. It's what goes on in his world. He got it from his dad and his mom. It's a part of their family. It's in the hard wiring or the design of who they are as human beings. Literally, if he doesn't get up and start moving, he goes crazy.
So are those, before you go on, are those three, did you say that's a part of his identity, or is that just three things that he identified?
That's how he defines his identity.
Okay, because I would,
through the process of Mayhem Mindset, those are the work that he did, where I've asked him to do this work to define himself from his heart all the way out to the things he believes he should be doing. If you go back, he's going to tell you that purpose for him, not in what he does. We want everything you do to be filled with purpose.
Yes, very intense.
Eliminate the stupid shit in your life and make sure that everything that you're doing every day has some purpose in it. But if you ask him specifically about his purpose as a man, he knows he's got to move, he knows he's competitive, and he knows he's wired up to be protecting. Those are things that have to figure in. Those are ingredients in his life, in the formula of his life, that he knows he has to be paying attention to every day.
The first and the third one resonate with me a lot. The competitive one, I think, might be something I would probably have to move out, just because that for him is legitimate nature. For me, there's some things I could do that isn't necessarily competitive, but it would probably be like for you, how you have 11, that would probably be my 7th or something like that.
And we're not talking about values right now. We're talking about identity.
Identity
is different. We haven't got to values yet. He's only talking about what he believes about how he's wired up and how that plays out in his life.
Yes.
This is why it's important for everybody to do this work, right?
Yeah.
Because the guy who answered the question, if he was the same as Rich, he wouldn't ask that question.
He would have
never asked that question.
Yeah, he would have known.
Yeah, I mean, he'd have been sitting.
That's like an alpha asking another alpha, hey, how do I do alpha shit?
Yeah, I never.
Hey, brother, if you're asking that question, you don't belong at the alpha table.
So he's grown. Rich has grown up enough to be able to coach that guy up and give him some advice about some things that he might do to cultivate more of a competitive nature in his life. But he can't really tell him how to do that, because it's like what you said about Tom Brady. It's born in him.
Yeah.
And if you're going to be an athlete at a world championship level, there's some component there. That's not something that they're having to try to figure out.
Yeah, like people understand that you kind of have to be an asshole or a version of an asshole to be that dedicated, and slightly that selfish.
So talk to me about it.
Well, I mean, so if I
mean, you should be an asshole to your wife and your kids. Is that what you mean? You come home and you just tell them, "Hey, F you, honey."
No, not even. Okay, wrong.
I'm a world champion.
Wrong choice of words. You have to be kind of selfish. You have to.
I was going to still use the word asshole, but maybe it's wrong. Maybe it's not.
No, it's not wrong. You ain't gonna do it unless you're an asshole.
The way I look at it is most, if not all, of the winners in history that are considered a legend in whomever's eyes, right? They out there. If you look at a Brady, Michael Jordan, a Kobe, Roger Federer, fuck LeBron. I'm not using LeBron on my podcast.
I'll use LeBron.
Any one of those guys, there's got to be more than a handful or more than a few handfuls of people in the world that would look at them and be like, hey, that guy at some point was an asshole. Whether it was he yelled at a teammate, hey, that was kind of an asshole thing. Does it make him one? No. But the perception of enough people thinking that way, that gives off, like how you said, if he or she doesn't define themselves and know who they are, then that may be who you become or who the world knows you as. So I think the idea of being an asshole makes champions is not complete and it's not 100%. But the people that are champions know when to turn it on, turn it off. But when you're
how do they do that? If let's just,
some people that work for that.
I want you to work from my premise that I'm saying, we're using Rich as an example, and I'm saying it's his nature to compete. So we know he's a protector. He has to move and he has to compete. So we know that's the truth, and that pours out of him, period. So how does he know how to use that? Based on what you're saying, Steve, how does he know?
Again, he's got to know who he is. He has to know what he's trying to do and the person that he is or trying to be. And for somebody like Rich, who's probably up there in age as it pertains to that specific sport, at some point he knows he wants to get away from it. Knowing who he is as himself, he probably is starting to change that. Maybe if I was in that situation compared to being 27, right? He has 3 kids. I don't even have one yet, but I guess like at some point he would have to make a pivot to be like, okay, hey, yes, I can still be competitive, but I can do it in different areas like we talked about. But at the same time, I don't know. That switch, everybody's is different, but I think you have to own your own switch.
So you're on the right track, but think about what you just said and how ambiguous that is. And
very broad.
Yeah, I mean, so understand identity. Remember, this is identity and values are where your feet go. It's how you set up to your day. The answer to the question that you just posed is understanding what the hell he believes in and what his values are, so that he applies that properly at the right time.
Yeah.
So the way we do this is we talk about competing in a box. We call it a competitive box. And inside that box, I'm not talking about illegal or immoral, because I don't believe in that, but I'm talking about within the rules of the game, you must be as competitive possible. And that asshole applies, and you're not going to be a winner if you don't.
Yeah.
You have to understand clearly, develop mindset skills and tools, and understand what emotion means to you. Emotion is not sustainable. It's a fire starter, but it's not sustainable. So I'm talking about to compete. I'm not talking about for friendly people that come to the CrossFit gym that we care about and love, who are every day. I'm not even making a joke. You know what I'm talking about? The
GPP.
The part of our
I smile because I just know who you're talking about.
I'm talking about, when I'm talking about compete, I'm talking about combat. I'm talking about professional sports, or I'm talking about law enforcement guys and gals who are out every day doing a job that's at that kind of a level, right? Yep. Emotions go in neutral. Positive emotion.
Fight or flight comes upon us.
Positive emotion is not beneficial. Negative emotion sure is not. Understanding heart rates, physiology, what that does to us, being able to breathe, making, all of that's super important.
I just had an aha moment.
Being able, you asked me about family.
Yeah.
You asked me about all those things. Being able to leave, re-engage your emotions at an intentional and proper level, and connect with the people around you care about through core values. And so if you ask Rich, family is a core value, so asshole doesn't work with his children.
No.
So he has to be able to shift out of that gear.
Take the hat off, put another
Take that hat off.
Yeah.
Put up take your gun belt off and leave it in the garage and walk inside and pick up your daughter. Shift gears, figure out how to leave the day behind. And that's all done by understanding clearly what your values are. You can't trust emotion and momentum to do that for you.
No.
That makes a lot of sense, because I had a couple of aha moments just then. The first one was, I remember being in Afghanistan and I was like, oh man, shit's hitting the fan. And I was 24 years old at the time. And I was like, oh, do this, do that, do this, do that. I'm going to do this. You're going to be okay. And it was no emotion. It was very neutral. It was just, do this so that we can live. And people were like, I got it. I can do that. And, turn around and to the last portion of what you said, the same is true with taking off the hats. I've learned now that once this room is my office where I work, because I work from home. But whenever I'm working in here and I leave out of here, I don't say a word to my fiance about what went on in this room. She might ask me and I'll go, oh yeah, my day was this. I had a couple projects that went array. Or I come back home from the gym or I come back in from the garage and she's like, oh, how did it go? I'm like, oh, it went good. I'm a little disappointed in my time. I can be a little faster, XYZ. But I go, that shit's over there. Now it's time for me and Tam to sit down and watch TV and eat dinner and chill out. So that is what I think. Yeah, that's what I think that people don't know.
100% we're talking about.
Yeah, that's what people don't know, especially young people that go to college or young people that join the Army. They don't have that time to figure that out. And they're like, oh, someone's telling me what to do. I need to be this way all the time, but they haven't developed that ability to think. So yeah. But
now we're talking about mindset skills, literally. What to think and how to think are equally as important. You hear what I'm saying? The next level of consciousness. Think about the people that you know in your life, and you could name them right now, who they're completely controlled by emotion and momentum. They are not critical thinkers, and we know them.
Oof. Well, we know them real well.
The next level in life is somebody who has developed the skill to know how to think and then to know what to think about. That's a next level of consciousness. So it's not flipping switches. It's not any of those things. It's literally to understand, here's my personal identity. Here's how it applies when I'm competing. Here's what it applies with my family. Here's what it applies over at the gym. And then being practiced enough to be able, it's like, I like to think about it like shifting gears, so that you can be the man that you say you believe you're supposed to be in all those different spaces.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, in the culture that we live in, sooner or later, that's going to catch up with you, right? Sooner or later. Yeah. Now let's use Antonio Brown for an example.
Oh,
booming!
Oh yeah, here we go.
Finally caught him. Finally, yep. His talent took him a long ways, and he got paid a ton of money. Inside of the football world, people kept paying him. I don't know him personally, but I can imagine what his personal relationships are and who people think who they think that he is outside of the sports world. I spent a bunch of time talking with Darren Woodson. You know who he is?
Yeah, yes. Darren Woodson podcast out of Texas. Yeah.
We spent a bunch of time talking about how professional athletes, men, need to really understand these things. My son-in-law, actually my stepson, I always say son-in-law, get all those kids mixed up now. He's a cop. And we talked a ton about this. Like, he's got a little baby girl, and I mean, he lives a life that's pretty dang intense. And so he has created a system in his life so that when he goes home, he doesn't take that inside to his wife and his kid.
Good.
And he literally has set up a locker in his garage, and he takes his uniform off and he leaves it all in the garage and he puts that behind him. And he's doing that to be practiced about it so that he can just go inside, because his little 2-year-old daughter doesn't care one bit about, who he is that day and what he had to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is where values come in. We've got to be able to articulate what our strongest beliefs and our values are. We understand identity. We know what our values are. Then we connect that to routine. Then we have the ability to connect to some habits, create some habits that we can be successful. We can get motivated properly. We can control our emotion. We can be in control of our emotion. In other words, we turn it up in spaces where we want people to feel and that we want to be connected. And then we can dial that back and put that in neutral, where our behavior is the most important thing, not how we feel. All of us got to do stuff that we don't feel like doing.
Yeah. I wish I had figured that part out, or like all of this. I wish I had figured all of this out when I was like 23 years old.
Well, shoot, man, me too.
But you,
I wouldn't have been divorced and in jail.
Thinking going on in here.
Yeah, but I mean, like how much? So somebody that's not in your mindset course, right? Like, what is the timeline, or what do you think is the best way for them to figure this stuff out?
Well, I mean, I think that's in the end what happened. Why Mayhem Mindset is now so freaking unique, because it's so different than what other people are doing. We're really It's a process. I don't tell anybody what to believe, and I don't tell them who they are. That's not what we do. It is a process for someone to quantify that for themselves. So it takes about 12 weeks to work through this. And when you're done, you can really have that in 30 seconds or less. If I ask you, who the hell are you? What do you believe? And you've created some language in your life to hold yourself accountable, you can do that. Here's the challenge. We all get to the need to do that in our life at different points. And it's hard to live in a Western culture right now because in the West, we're so lucky. Our lives are so damn good. Why? Most people don't even need to know, right? Why the hell do I got to need to know that, man? Everything's going great in my life. So until there's some gigantic obstacle of adversity, or you keep missing on opportunity, we all get there at different times, man. I was working with a dude who sold his business for $100 million, which is more money than I'll ever see. Jesus. He's in his 60s, and he calls me up and says he wants to do this, right? He's a private client.
Yeah.
Wants to do this process, and his job had defined him for his whole entire life. You know, his dad owned the company before him, and then he owned the company, and that's all he had known. And now here he is, time to retire. Thought he was going to go on his big boat. Doesn't know any of his kids. Didn't spend any time with them. Doesn't really know his wife.
Dang.
He was so wrapped up in this idea of his job being purpose, and he forgot about all the other things that were valuable around him. He forgot about all that. And here he is thinking he put them all through colleges and did all that stuff, and it was all okay, and it's not okay. And that dude had a heart attack on his freaking boat and died.
Jeez.
Woof.
So you go a whole entire life thinking everything's cool, and right up till he retired, and then he realized that he hadn't defined himself, and he hadn't paid attention to the other things that he was waking up and going, God dang, that's important to me. Holy crap, my wife doesn't even know who I am.
Keep going, guys. I gotta grab a work laptop real quick.
Yep. Yeah, but that's kind of crazy that, well, not crazy, but it's very like, not crazy, but it makes a lot of sense because I didn't learn nearly as much through non-trauma as I did trauma, you know, the worst, I think the thing that taught me that I could go a lot further than I thought I could, I was in Bolic I was a field artillery officer, so I was in field artillery Bolic, and it was mandatory for all the dudes doing pre-ranger to do we share the base of the Marine Corps. It's kind of like the Mad Dog half marathon. And it was just to raise money for the essentially Marines that had lost their spouse in combat. And we raised something like $20,000. It was pretty awesome. This is in Fort Sill, Oklahoma. We ran that half marathon, and then the next day we had to get up and do our 15-mile ruck for our slot for Ranger School. Like if you didn't pass that ruck, you were kind of screwed. But they always did it that way just to see how far you could go. I remember getting done with that half marathon. I don't know what I ran it in, but it was really freaking fast. It was like an hour and like 10 minutes or something like that. Got done. We went to cryo. Got up the next morning at 4:00. Did this ruck with it was a 15-mile ruck with an 80-pound rucksack with a fake rifle, the dummy rifle.
Yeah.
We did that whole thing. I got back. I sat under a tree and I made a mistake. 3 of us sat down as soon as we got done, and we could not move.
Oops.
Like we took off our rucks and we tried to stand up, and we could not. And there was like 10 more of us that were like that had finished, and they kept walking around. They're like, "What's wrong with you guys?" And we were like, I can't feel my legs. I can't move. And my pre-ranger instructor, Captain K, short black guy from Africa, like I'll never forget this guy. He walked up, he was like, "Get up on your own 2 feet." I'm like, I can't. He's like, "You'd be surprised what you could do with the right amount of motivation." He took my ruck and he moved it a 1/4 mile away from me all the way down the road. And he's like, "Get up and go get it." And I got up and I walked and I grabbed and I drug it back to my car. And I was like, man, if I can do this, I can do anything.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for most people, it does take adversity before you wake up to, man,
it takes putting you in the shitty situation that you didn't want to be in ever for you to realize that you can do that shit because you have to.
Yeah. The need to have to do this personal development work usually is is the tough time, where you really need to understand what it is and you really need to take ownership of your life.
I think people forget that the brain is a muscle too. Like the brain needs to be trained as well. So like we go to the gym and we do all these AMRAPs, intervals, EMOMs, all this stuff, pick up all this heavy weight. It's tiring. Yeah, your brain gets a little tired, but there's nothing like sitting down and writing down your thoughts each day at the end of the day and going, oh, what did I learn? And you having to sit there and do that mind muscle like development of like personal growth and thinking through it. Like that's one of the things my friend Gabrielle Ocker, she went to the MAC last year and she did fairly well. This year she'll probably end up there again. But she would come to the gym and she had this notebook and I was like, why do you have this notebook, Gabby? And she's like, well, I write down my workouts, even though they're on my phone. And then I write down how I felt during them and my thoughts after everything's done. And I started doing that and I learned so much stuff about myself. I was like, man, my brain is what's limiting me from doing a lot of things that I know I could do.
Think about what you just said. We talked about it early. How to think and what to think are both equally as important, not just motivation and how to do the skill. The mind piece ends up being the most important piece. And we've heard it said, everything's mostly mental. We hear that and everybody believes it's true, but yet nobody does the work to understand what that means. Yeah. So if I'm telling you Rich Froning's not competing because of emotion, that emotion's in neutral, well then why is he competing? And if you pay attention to anything Mayhem, you should know. You should be able to tell me, because it's literally printed all over everything that Rich. What is it? Why is he competing?
The freedom, faith, and what was it it's on the outside of the M.
There you go.
Freedom, faith, and community, faith, or family,
fitness, and service.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
So when he's stepping up to get into a workout, his emotions are neutral. Emotion has nothing to do with what he's doing. Zero.
How do you get that? I want to get to that.
Maybe a little of this at the end. Maybe a little of that. Maybe. But tell me, what good are emotions? What does emotion do during a workout?
They cloud your judgment. They like when you sit there and you're like, oh my God, I'm in so much pain. I'm so sad about this. Well, you could probably kick up and walk that extra 50 feet, do your handstand walk. It's okay.
It does you no good. Well, physiologically, when your emotions are out of control, your heart rate's going up, your pulse is going up, your breathing's going up, right? So that's a challenge.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm not talking about a one rep max or something where hey, there's emotion's a good thing right there, but we understand that this is just this one big movement, right? Yeah. So he's competing not for emotion, he's competing for his faith, for his family, for what he believes his business and the company and the people are around him, to serve other people, to actually live that out. Those are the reasons why he's doing what he's doing. He understands his identity, he's clear on his values, and he's not reliant on momentum or emotion to be the motivator in his life.
What do you mean practiced by momentum? The stuff he's done in the past, like his laurels?
Yeah, or whatever. Yeah, whatever the hell's going on today. How many people do you know are that way? Their day is not based on their intention. It's based on circumstances and other people around them. If everybody else is cool, then my day may go okay. If everybody else's emotions are okay, well, then I might be able to keep mine under control. What's the difference between a thermostat and a thermometer?
Thermostat you can adjust. Thermometer is just bad.
Thermostat regulates temperature.
Well, yeah, regulate. There you go.
It's in control of it, and the thermometer just measures it. You're either a thermostat and you're regulating your life, so you can walk into a room with a bunch of impatient people, but you still can be patient, or you can't, man. One of the two. Whatever it is that you say you believe in, you can do that standing on your own. Here's the fundamental question I think we're trying to answer right here in life, and this is where Mayhem Mindset starts. In your greatest moment of opportunity or your darkest hour, will you be enough? First, can you count on yourself? And then can the people you're responsible for, can they count on you? That's the question you got to answer. And if you don't know who the hell you are first, and you can't tell me what identity is, and you can't define your values, then you are not the thermostat. You will live your life because of emotion instead of with emotion. And you will live your life because of the opinions of other people instead of what your beliefs are. And this is why getting this, it's if you're going to power clean a ton of weight someday and you're going to reach your potential, you got to make sure your feet are in the right place. You have to set up to the bar properly. And if you want life to be what you want it to be, then you have to be able to set up to life properly every day and to be able to take stock, hold yourself accountable, and re-aim. And that's going to require you to understand your personal identity, know what your strongest beliefs are, and have that in language so you can live it. Then we can get properly connected to getting motivated, developing routines, working on habits, putting systems in place, and then setting goals and doing all that. And then when you don't reach a goal and you're not motivated, well, then you know how to fix it, man. Not because
it's
not
one
because
of those
of how
things that went wrong. Yeah.
100%. Not because of what you feel. Well, what does your face say about it? Well, what does family say about it? What does friendship say about it? What does work say about it? What does hope say about it? That's how you re-aim. Not, well, God dang, I hope I feel better about this tomorrow.
What was that book that I had to read my junior year in college? I'm gonna look it up real quick. I remember what it was. Oh, The Signal and the Noise: Why So Many Predictions Failed. And it's by Nate Silver. He's a statistician that does the elections every year. He kind of does all that weird math stuff that I do. But he said that, you know, there's so much noise out there, you can't determine the signal from the noise. And what you do and what Mayhem Mindset kind of does, if I'm wrong, correct me, is it takes all of that noise, it filters out like 10, 11 signals for you. So you can make a decision and figure out where the problem lies in this small cone rather than this big world full of bullshit, you know? So
that's good. Same kind of thing, right? Just to be able to be intentional. We don't believe in balance. That's not a word we use. We don't believe in balance. Balance means you can be pretty good at a lot of things. And I'm not interested in being pretty good at a lot of things. I want to be great at a few things. We believe in being intentional. And so I'm going to pick out 3 or 4 or 5 things in my life max. And I'm going to go, do you think Rich Froning's balanced in his diet? Do you think he's balanced in how much he works out?
I mean, he's Lego my egos.
That man's eating Oreos, and when he has a few seconds, he's like, I'm hungry.
I'm not talking about it that way. I'm talking about intent.
Oh, okay.
I'm not talking about and this is how it hits people, balance. So let's be balanced on a lot of nice things and we'll all be kind of vanilla. No, man, be incredibly excellent and detailed at 2 or 3 or 4 really things. And then have that be your pursuit every day of your life. That requires identity and values. Yes. Can't be great at a million things. He's very intentional about what he eats. He pays really close attention to it. He does get to eat a lot of crappy stuff because he's burning so many sinking calories, but he's paying attention to it. Do you think he's paying attention to his workouts every day in a very detailed way? Hell yeah.
He writes workouts like Pablo Picasso painted, man.
Yeah, I look at him and I'm like,
he built a barn next to his house so that he could be connected to his family, because he has one of the largest gyms in the world that's 10 minutes away from his house. It wasn't good enough because he wanted his kids and his family to be involved. So he built the barn so his kids could be there. But it wasn't about the money. Do you understand what I'm talking about? The intent of the value.
Yeah, no. Nobody, I mean, the money to build a barn on your property, have it. I mean, I've seen there's a sauna in there. There's like a kitchen in there. It looks like it has every piece of equipment that CrossFitters would love to have. To spend that kind of money on it, most people would be like, that's a big commitment. He's looking at it like, hey, does it get me what I need? And will I be
does my family get to be here? Can they just walk down the driveway and into the barn every day? His whole reason for going from being an individual competitor to being on a team, he still works out just as hard as he ever did.
He could still probably beat most, if not all, of the individuals on the podiums.
It has never changed, but the mindset that it took to be an individual competitor, the all-consuming, I can't think about anything else, I have to be this asshole and this focused on this, doesn't fit with 3 children.
Because then there would be no intent in having a gym at home, because you wouldn't want to be at home.
And you couldn't be a dad. You couldn't do the things that he's like, man, I got to shift gears and I got to do this. This is important to me.
Yeah, because he made a family with his team. Like, he makes a family with his team every year. That's crazy. Like, I just really started putting 2 and 2 together. Like, it makes sense now.
I mean, I think that was always like an underlying thought that, like, I've been one of Rich's biggest fans for the longest time that I've been in CrossFit. But it was like, my wife makes fun of me a little bit for it, but like, I watch their YouTube channels and I watch all the stuff. And, you know, I recently got to meet Matt Fraser at one of Rogue Invitational. And it was not one of those, hey, don't meet your hero or your idol moments because it'll ruin it. But I immediately got to see that his YouTube channel, all that shit, that's promotion for his business, that is him promoting himself. It's a business. End of the day, from start to finish, he gets out of a minivan. He has 2 cameramen. He's got another coach. He's got his manager and his wife, who's also managing their other stuff. And immediately it is, cameras are on. Okay, it's time to start hitting the checkpoint. It's time to start hitting those key notes. We're going to come in here. Yes, we're going to have fun with the athletes. Cameras might come off for a minute. But again, at the end of the day, I'm promoting my business. This thing with Rich, to me, that I always kind of felt, and I haven't gotten the pleasure to meet him yet or talk to him, but it doesn't seem that way. It seems like it's just, hey, I just happen to have a camera while I'm doing my thing.
Yeah. He's not paying attention to the camera. He's like, I don't give a fuck about the camera.
It promotes Mayhem every time he does it. But at this point, the intent is not to promote Mayhem, right? It's to continue and further the business in a sense, but it's like, hey, we have a family here. We have a section of people that like this. So we're going to continue to give something to them. And it gives back to us in the end, but that's not the intent. We're not getting out of the car for a business purpose. It doesn't seem like.
So here's how we say this. And it's cool that concerning Mayhem, that's your perspective. This is how we say it, that success and winning should be a byproduct of living our values, not the other way around.
Yes.
So I
because winning and having none of the behind the scenes, the identity or the values, it doesn't seem fun or real or reproductive. Like, you can win one time, but if you don't have the other stuff behind it, then it doesn't. That's why a lot of athletes take their friends along on the ride with them to make it feel more real. But then at the end, they're like, "Oh, we did this backwards."
There's this day
successful. You're not here.
There's a day you're born, and there's a day you die. Father Time's undefeated. Living well is important.
Yes.
And as we grow through life, our identity and our values change and grow. And there are different seasons of our life. And so this season for Rich of being a CrossFit Games competitor is coming to an end.
Yeah. And
so having the foresight to think out ahead and go, hey, let me define the next 10 years and put that into language. Let the success and the winning and all of that be a byproduct of really being an authentic human being.
Yeah.
And then people will like that and purchase it and buy into it, or they won't. It doesn't really matter. So it's cool as it relates to Mayhem, Steve, that you see that. And I know that, if Rich was watching and paying attention, that'd make him happy, because he's just trying to be that dude. He's literally just trying to be the guy who lives those things out.
Well, golly, man, don't make me have to fucking blush and beg him to.
We're going to send him the link to this and go, hey, Rich, if you have time between your workouts, go and watch Steve be
yeah, man, if you got time, you know what? Fuck watching me be a fan. Give me a call, Rich. We can have as many great discussions about everything, because I will say, first, I want to apologize for the last 10 minutes. I got some email from work that is somebody thought to put me on blast or something at a higher rank that I can't. I can't deal with some people who are this dumb. But
just put one period and hit send. I used to do that all the
time. Oh, dude, I just whatever. Master sergeants, man, master sergeants. They're so out of the game. They're not in the game anymore. But again, my wife makes fun of me a little bit because she calls me Rich Jr. And it's not just because I have Mayhem gear, and it's not just because I buy his shoes and shit like that, right? I get it. Yeah, fanboy, but so I keep it. But one of the things that I've always admired, at least, it not just that everything sounds good and it looks good, and most of the time, if it looks good and sounds good, it probably is good, right? But I think maybe it's really tailored just to the Mayhem Mindset type deal, where the way he speaks about it, you can tell it's intent. You can tell it's genuine. You can tell that there's not somebody in the corner of his YouTube channel at Mayhem being like, hey, Rich, I think you should say this next time. Or, hey, I think you should change the way you're talking about this. And I mean, I love the way he seems to parent with his kids. His kids seem like they're got to be the coolest kids in the world. And just like, it would be a dream of mine to open a gym. And it would also be a dream to have like my kids just in there while I get to work. That's an absolute dream.
Well, he's not perfect. He's kind of a dick sometimes, but I'm just kidding around. He's a good dude, but he's definitely not perfect. And if when people start to say too many nice things, he'll in a hurry to be like, hey man, look, I'm just trying to do my best here. And what I can say about Rich, the one word I would say about him is he is authentic. So what you see is what you get. It's not perfect. He apologizes. He says, I'm sorry. He's a human being just like everybody else. But he's authentic, and what you get is what you see.
But what most people think is like, oh, there are other people being like fangirls and fanboys about it. But I think the thing that I really enjoyed the most and that has always drawn me back to his stuff, whether it was competing with some Mayhem programming or wearing the clothes and, doing the Froning farm stuff, is it seems genuine. Like to create a farm on your property and then start a business around it that you then promote also through your gym. But at the end of the day, he's like, no, the core value of this is to leave something for my kids and have something to do with them. You're like, holy shit, man, there's not a lot of athletes out there that start a business and they're like, hey, I'm doing this so my kids and I can do it together.
Yep.
And then it's like, at that point, you're like, all right, you know what? I could buy a sticker pack or two.
I think
I could buy a t-shirt.
Yeah, the older I get, the more I realize the way I grew up, because I grew up in Tennessee, like the way that I grew up, I wouldn't change it for the world. I would have to get up in the morning like 6 o'clock, go help my granddad, corn feed the pigs, grew up on a pig farm, do that. Then we go out and we scrape up doo-doo and just scraping poo. And then I would go home, take a shower. Mom would make me a little bitty breakfast, and I would get on the bus and I would go to school. And I come back in the evening, and guess what was waiting for me? My granddad and my uncle was like, "Hey, come help." And I just do that on repeat. Summer throwing bells, like, "Hey," But that's what got me and my family and my cousins really close, because we all did that together. Like, and we also knew that, like, oh, granddad's getting older in age, he can't do it by himself, or our uncle's getting older, they have other jobs, they can't do it by themselves. And we would just get up before they even, there was a point in time where they'd have to wake us up to go do it. They'd come and knock on each one of our doors and be like, hey, send Kenya out here. But it got to the point where we'd already be up putting on our shoes and like, well, guess we're going out here to pick up some poo. And we go, we'd go out and
the sun's up. It looks like I got to do it.
Yeah, sun's break it. Like if the sun was up, I was late. So like I learned like the value of hard work. I learned what my family meant to me, like knowing that at the end of the day, if no one else loves me, people in my family love me. They give a shit about me. And when I'm gone, or when we're all gone, what's going to happen to our kids? Like, what do we all get together and leave our children? And
that's really been something huge for me. Just like knowing that I have a kid on the way is like, whether I'm going to buy a house or do we have enough time? Is it worth the money to put in up front or behind? And are we going to, all the things that come with trying to prepare for a new kid. It's hard because for me, one of those natures of like to move and to constantly be like, my wife is thinking first, going through the emotions of it, and it's killing her. But for me, I'm like, all right, got to call the realtor. All right, got to call this person. Got to get this thing from the bank. Got to do this, this, and this. But I'm trying to do it with the intent of like, hey, I'm here to protect my family, to ensure that there's something that will forever be there. Now, the Army is a great protection of that. But at the same time, if you're not moving to get it done, the Army's at a standstill as well. They don't give two rats' asses.
Yeah.
That's why I say that, like, eventually everything will break your heart. Like, one day the Army's going to tell you, hey, you got to leave, or you're going to realize you're going to go, man, I'm going to leave. And
fuck, bro, I'm happy as shit when that day happens.
No, you say that, but I'm telling you, like, I knew I was getting out for almost 6-7 months.
Yeah, but I'm talking about when it comes to actual retirement.
I mean,
when it's like, hey, it's time.
I'm telling you, you grieve, you're gonna grieve. Like, I went through very heavy depression, and I was like, man, like, what is next? Like,
I'm calling Jim.
I call Jim to get a job.
No, I'm not calling him for a job. I'm calling him to help me out.
What you just described, I mean, if we could take just the clip of when you started saying, I grew up in Tennessee, and then here's what you just said, quote, the value of hard work. I can tell you right now, just based on what you've said, in the terminology that I use, hard work would be a value of yours, and it would be important to you, and you know how to do that. And it was honed in your life from the time you were little. So it's not only, it's in your nature, and it was in the way you were raised. So you were taught that. And then from there, you went on and described the value of family and what your life is. Really, it was really authentic. You were that dude when your job was the Army. You're that dude now that the job is not the Army. You'll be that job when you're a 50-year-old. You'll be that person when you're a 50-year-old man, and you'll be trying to teach those values to your kids. That's what I'm talking about, this clear understanding of core values. Your identity doesn't change. It's born in you, and it's nurtured in you, and you've got to be able to know what that is and define it. The core values, those things, they grow in your life. You need values that are what I call strength values, like the ones you just described. You need values that are, I call weakness values, and you need values that are ideal values. Can you tell me what's the one emotion in your life that seems to, negative emotion that seems to define you and get the best of you? No right or wrong answers. Just throw something out.
Anxiety, just
frustration.
Okay.
All right, stop. Anxiety or frustration. You need, if that's the one emotion that seems to get the best of you, you have to work a mindset tool or value in that's a clear target to aim at when you get anxious. Here's an example in my life. I was a worrier, and so hope became my clear target to aim at. And so I defined hope in my life, and I worked hard at hope. Now, I don't mean fake it till you make it. I mean, based on my code, I committed to responding as a hopeful man would respond. My wife left me for a professional football player that's in the Hall of Fame. This is what's in my head. What the hell's the matter with me? Holy crap.
Yeah. Oh,
you know, like I'm half a human being next to this person. So worry, everywhere I went for a long time, worry was my first thought. I walk into a room and it was, I'm worried or I'm anxious. And so I had to have language or create tools in my life, not fake it till you make it, but like, no, dang it, hope. Hope is the spring that moves me forward. I'm going to be a hopeful man. I'm going to respond as a hopeful man would respond right now. And that was my commitment. And I worked at that until that became my first thought. Until walking into a room was like, shoot, man, I'm the best dude in this freaking room. What good things are getting ready to happen to me?
Shit, I'll kick anybody's ass right now.
For sure.
Bro, that's amazing.
So what do you do with anxious? We just got done saying thinking's important, figuring out how to do that. So what do you do with anxious? If you don't have tools, then then people are gonna say this about you. Well, Kenya believes in family, and he believes in friendship, and he believes in all that, but that anxiety always seems to get the best of him, man. He just can't quite get that figured out in his life, and it affects him as an athlete, and it affects him as a person. And we start to see power leak out in those spaces.
That is funny because that is funny you say that, because I had the overhead squat the other day, and I only hit 315, and I was pissed because I put 320 on, and I thought I was gonna, like, I was so anxious about doing it because I was like, overhead stability has been my like weakness, that I hit 315, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna put 5 pounds on here, and And I just kept thinking about, I don't think I'm gonna be able to do this. Like, I'm anxious about it. Like, what the fuck's about to happen? I'm probably gonna fail. What
you called me, I would have told you to quit being a bitch.
Exactly. But because I was trying in the gym for forever with my gym owner, Tim. And then I came home and I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna do it at home. And I hit 315.
Where does anxiety live? Where does it live? Think about what I'm getting ready to say.
Oh, anxiety? It's not really real.
Why? Where does it live?
Because
where
it's my made up thought of like my own conspiracy theory in my fucking head.
That's it. It lives in the future. Yeah. Fear, worry, and anxiety live in the future.
Depression in the past.
They're not where your feet are in the present.
And they live in the future, in which is dictated upon what you do.
So what you're doing is what we know is like over 80% of what we're anxious, worry, and afraid about never even happens. So you're wasting. You're wasting. Danger is real. You should pay attention to danger.
Yes.
Not being prepared to max, not being prepared, not having, when I'm saying prepared, I mean done the work. That's
not having the weight belt or the knee sleeves or that shit.
Or not having trained. Getting under a bar that you haven't trained to lift. That's all freaking real. And anxiety and worry and fear have nothing to do with that if you've done the work. I don't know whether you're going to lift it or not, but anxiety, worry, and fear have nothing to do with that. It can only hurt you. It will cause you to play small.
That is, Jesus Christ, man. I wish
Aim
I
small, miss small, brother.
School and college, man. Steve, this is great that you had Jim get on here because I'm having some life revelations right now. This is crazy.
You're not the only one, man. I'm just thinking about all the times in open workouts. Or
Kenny, I've already Venmo'd you, bro. So just pay that when we get done.
Don't worry, Jim. I'll send you away.
You thought this was free. No, but think about what I'm saying. So now I'm using you as an example. I've listened to you and we've talked about two values that are really foundational values in your life. I call them strength values: family and this idea of work. They're just kind of, man, they were yours from the beginning. You were taught them. Now we're talking about an emotion that gets the best of you, anxious. So we need a value that's a clear target to aim at, that becomes a competitive value in your life. It's the way you train your mind to think when you feel anxious. And then we need values that are connected to goals. There are things in our life that we see other people or attributes that we wish we want to work at. Something like I'm doing a whole entire study of freedom this year. From the time my feet hit the floor till my head goes to sleep. Am I a free man? What does freedom mean to me in my life? And I journal about freedom every dang day. So we need values like that we're really aiming at, that we really wish, that we really want to make sure that figure in to the choices and decisions in our life. Do you see how this idea of values is a living thing for me? Mm-hmm. It's not just neat things that I put in a mission statement. I go into buildings all the time. People hire me to come work with them, businesses, to shape their mission statements and their values. I was in a meeting the other day with 7 CEOs of major corporations, some of the biggest in the world, literally. Mm-hmm. And only one of the dude knew what the core values of their company even was.
Oh,
I mean, they're just things that we just stick on the wall that we don't really live.
Go to an army organization, Jim. Go to any army organization. Same story.
And ask an army
this is why
they're gonna be like, huh?
This is why, as an individual, remember, in your greatest moment of opportunity or in your darkest hour, first, can you count on yourself? You got to know who the hell you are. Identity and values for yourself as a person.
Because if you know what that is. All those things that you do, will you be enough? Will you be able to count on those around you, and can they do the same?
When your feet hit the floor in the morning and the lights go on, you got to have that understanding for your life. I'm not talking about you're going to be successful. That's why we get up. That's why we're grown-ass men and we compete. We get out there and we grind and we try. We take big risks, purposeful risks, and we get after it. But you still have to do that from a position of strength.
Yes.
There's a difference between having done the work and you're prepared for the opportunity in front of you and you're ready to get after it, and then just, well, fuck it, let's just see what happens. Those are two very different things. And I don't want to be that second guy.
And doing it from a position of strength also is not necessarily determined upon like how big and strong you are or how many reps you've taken at something, but that psychological side where when you hit the floor, if you're thinking from a position of strength, which is not like boasting and keeping your ego up.
No.
I understand, therefore I cannot be tricked.
How I've defined it in this conversation. When I say position of strength, I'm talking about where your feet go for your life. You understand where your setup to the day is. I know what my identity is. I know what my values are. Look, there are two separate kinds of people, or two different kinds of people in the culture we live in. There's a clearly defined person who knows who they are, and their game is just to hold themselves accountable and be the person that they said they would be. That's their game. I know who I am. Now go out and live it. Yeah. And then the other person is the kind of person they're in the gray all the time. And this is why I like your podcast. I like the name of your podcast. This is the reason why I did it, actually. The reason why I did this was because of the name.
Your voice, I'm taking that. I will always take that.
Yeah,
these are people who are lost in the fog and the gray, man. They don't really know how they feel. They're not clearly defined. And there's still every damn day there's a large component of trying to figure that out so they know what to do. And based on the momentum of life and the emotions of other people, they get knocked around.
Yep.
And then there are a lot of people who want to be those kind of people, because to be clearly defined means you're accountable. If I know who you are, then you're accountable. But
hey, don't try to identify me, Jim. Don't try to do it. I get mad when people try to identify me.
Or define you.
Yeah, he said, see, he can't read.
He said identify. He didn't even get it right, Steve.
No, I understand the thing, but I'm getting the point where like people don't want to be defined because then there's an identity to them. And if
I got you.
Identity on me, right. And it's like, hey, that guy there is a competitive hard ass, but he gets shit done. All right, cool. If I want to get shit done, I'm not going to go to him. I'm going to go to the other guy that seems to get shit done, who's not a hard ass. Right. But that's what I'm saying. Like, I understand what he was saying, motherfucker.
I'm just hitting back on the message that you probably sent over Instagram that was poorly typed out and had some misspellings and some capitalization problems. That's probably why Jim went, this man uses crayons. This is cool. I'm a talk to him.
I don't even, you know what's cool? This is what's cool. I seriously don't care about any of that crap. So I look forward to conversations with men like you, and this. I'd rather be doing this stuff than anything else, man. You know, like,
give me a Fortune 500 company. I'll have Jim come in. We'll be doing all the shit.
I hope.
Like our culture needs, like, we need to be having these conversations. These are good conversations to have. They're good conversations. We can all get something from it. We can all learn something from each other. And that's important to me.
Words.
So yeah, like go ahead, Steve.
I want to just transition off, like, while we're talking about culture, because one of the things I wanted to talk about was Mayhem, more specifically, the group of like-minded individuals that have assembled under, like you said, like one of the biggest roofs of a gym the world has seen, and they predominantly, and there's a bunch of dudes, but the women under that
crazy
are, how do I say this? They would be above average masculine men. I'm not saying body types or anything like that. I'm not getting there. Mentality wise, their abilities, their engines, the like things that they do would outproduce most average men.
Yeah,
it's really important. This is something that's super important, and it's really important not to do. I mean, I learned this the hard way. I learned what I'm getting ready to tell you because I'm the father of two women.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'm the father of two actually very professional, excellent women. And I don't mean if I started bragging, my youngest daughter is the first Cherokee woman in the history of the world to have a documentary at Sundance. So I'm not talking about chicks that are just sort of getting it done.
Yeah.
It's super important as far as I'm concerned. If you're going to talk about Mayhem, you're going to talk about the guys and the gals there. We have to rank them or rate them based on their ability to compete, you know?
Okay.
And so if you're going to say it that way, for sure, I get what you're saying. You know, one of my favorite jokes on the planet back when I was a moron was I'd say to one of my buddies, I'd say, hey man, you want me to get you a wheelbarrow? You know, when they're being a pussy, you know, I played football in college. Let me get you a wheelbarrow. What do you want me? What do you mean, man? What do you mean a wheelbarrow? So I can help you haul your uterus around.
Yeah.
You know? Then I got around some of the best female athletes in the world, and I'd never tell that joke ever again because most of those chicks are tougher than any of the dudes that I'm around. You know,
and I ask all these questions just because, like, with that Army PT test that we talked about earlier, and then some of the double standards, like there are some female friends of mine that are livid because they were like, I worked my ass off to like give birth to 2 kids before and learn how to do a leg tuck and learn how to do multiple of them. And now you're telling me because some other people like me didn't want to put in the hard work, I have to look at my hard work and be like, well, I'm prepared for them, but they're no longer a necessity.
Yeah. I was a firefighter, a paid firefighter for a number of years. And I worked that job, and my life depended on that job. And look, I understand the necessity of standards for sure. And if you, Steve, you, Kenya, you, Shelly, you, Michelle, whoever it is, can't pick me up and drag my body, I don't want you working with me. Yeah, I'm talking about going into a fire. I need whoever's there to be able. There needs to be some sort of standard. You got to be able to pick up the ladder. You got to be able to do. So I understand that. And I think we have to have those standards, and they're important depending on the jobs and the roles we're in. But I always want to be super careful, and I really respect. Holy crap! I mean, I have been in a workout, you know, stuck between Haley and Rich. And that's a hard place to be. That's a stupid spot to be doing, you know, box jumps when they're both going past you at a bazillion miles an hour. I have mad props and respect to be around Tia and to see her, who she is and how she performs. So I definitely want to be careful when we start talking about, you know, comparing masculinity and femininity and all that, because I have so much respect. And on the other hand, I understand standards in the military. I get that, you know, depending on what job we're doing.
But even just like culture wise, like we have just women that go out there and they get after it better than most men and most, if not all, other females. And
Haley Adams is the closest person to natural compete that I've ever seen. If I were to compare to Rich, it's like she's like, I don't want to say a female version of him. Maybe he's a little older than her, but I mean, she has all of those same qualities, 100%, all of those same qualities. They're just there. She's just born with them. It's wired up like that. When at 3, 2, 1, go, and you turn and you look in her eyes, there's that nasty that you have to be that human being, you know. And she goes, she's just dangerous. That's what she is. She's just dangerous. And I have mad respect for her. And I've never even come close to beating her in a workout without being scaled. Not even close. It's stupid. Maybe, you know, I mean, it's just stupid. That's how fit she is, you know? So yeah, from a culture perspective, it's really funny. You go to the barn. Let me kind of just explain to you how a day in the barn would be. You would have, there's some of the stories I could tell you. Remember, emotion.
I want these.
Emotion is not useful. We're talking about compete now, and you're asking me about athletes. I'm not talking about the people that we love down at the gym where there's a place for everybody. I want to be clear about that.
Not the 9-to-5ers, not the you know,
there's nothing wrong with that.
Versus the young.
Nothing wrong with that. There's a space for all of those people. I'm talking about people trying to get to the games.
Yeah, we're talking about barn athletes here.
There's no heat and there's no air conditioning.
Sweet. Adverse.
And there's no music. only occasionally on some of the videos now, and I'm talking about like training and competing are two different things. But when they're getting prepared, it's going to be quiet, or there's going to be Jesus music.
I've heard that.
Like Christian music.
Mm-hmm.
That's it's almost like you could take a nap to music.
Yes.
Keep the heart rate down.
Because once you get on the competition floor, you're not paying attention to what the song playing on the stereo system is.
The point that I'm making in this environment, all motivation is taken from you.
Yes.
And you are capable of generating energy, not emotion, energy connected to values.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way we teach it and we talk about it. You're capable of doing that for yourself without any intrinsic or extrinsic motivation of any kind.
You're not
Emotions
doing it for the Instagram
neutral.
video. You're not doing it for the fans. You're there to succeed for yourself.
Yep.
None of that. And so we want to train like that, because so that the CrossFit Games, that's an easy day, man. Not only physically is it an easy day, but if you can't get motivated and you can't get up with the crowd and people and all that, well, then you're just dead. That's an easy day. You know what I mean? We want to be in a situation where you as an individual, in your greatest moment of opportunity, darkest hour, first, can you be enough? You as an individual have to figure out how to do that for yourself without anybody helping you. So at 3, 2, 1, go in that space, it's so funny because you watch people come in there and they crumble and they melt because they're used to having those scaffoldings in their life. And then you see other people who come into that environment and thrive because they understand that. They understand that they don't need any of those things. At 3, 2, 1, go, they know who they are. They know what they're capable of. They're prepared and they understand and they know how to be super present and to work out and have their entire attention is simply on the task or the next behavior. They're that present. They're that practiced that they can look around and see what other people are doing. The motivation piece is just something that comes from the values or the strongest beliefs, not from AC/DC.
I gotta get that darkest hour quote from you in like full writing. That might be my next tattoo.
That's my favorite thing. And
that might be my next tattoo. That whole feel.
I don't have any space in this one. I'll go to the next one.
Just keep. I got this one all sleeved up over here. I'm going on my next one too.
I saw I think in 2016. Yeah, 2016, I was getting ready to leave Korea to go to do green to gold at K-State. And I had the fortunate opportunity to be able to go through SFAS before. So I was like, man, I'm at the twilight of my career, kind of like this is the highest point. I'm in my best shape. Let's see what all we can get into. So I left Korea, went and did SFAS. I got selected and I came back, put in my green and gold packet and did that. And I was like, what's going to pay me more dividends down the road? Oh, it's probably going to be the green to gold, getting a masters and doing all that rather than going running around and shooting a bunch of stuff up in weird black suits or whatever. But I remember being in selection, and it was like the things they show you on Surviving the Cut is a lie. It's worse than that. That is just a very small fragment of what they have you do. And I remember
SEER school where they punch women and shit right in front of you.
Yeah, I've been to SEER school too. It's not a fun time. It's all bad. But yeah, actually I was stationed at Fort Campbell, so I was really close to you guys, Jim.
Right on.
But the thing that I remember one of my instructors telling me, he told me, he was like, don't think about what's coming tomorrow. He's like, don't think about what's coming in an hour. He's like, what are you doing right now? I'm like, well, you're just making me do a whole bunch of burpees over this log right now. He's like, all right, just focus on this log. I'm like, okay. So I'm just doing that. And then same guy came up to me, looked me in my face. He was like, what are you thinking about right now? I was like, how tired I am. He's like, think about picking the log up and putting it down. He's like, if you can focus on the task at hand, you can chip away at it incrementally. And this will be just a past thought to you. You'll move on from this, and this will be the hardest thing you ever have done.
Let me ask you, let me, what you're saying is so true. Think about it in the middle of that. So in the middle of that hard work, if I came up to you and I said, Kenya, look at me, man, look at me. You're such a good dude. Man, and I was being super genuine, right? No bullshit. I was really trying to encourage you. You're a good man. Your girlfriend loves you, bro. And I started saying all these good things to you. What would your response be to that in the middle of that challenge?
Pick that log up.
I don't care. I was like, I don't care. I'm gonna just keep doing this. I'm just gonna
100%. You would be like, what the hell does that have to do with anything that I'm doing right here?
Right now?
Nothing. So that's what I'm saying. The way we talk about this is inside. Picture a box. If I drew a box right here, inside of compete, positive emotion doesn't do you any good. You know, Rich Froning's a Christian, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big deal to him, right?
Yep.
So if I was shouting at Rich Froning in the middle of a competition, you can do it, Rich. You're a Christian. Jesus loves you. You know what Rich would do?
Shut the
100%. He'd be looking at you like, shut up. It has nothing to do. That emotion is not useful. The negative stuff, you suck, you're stupid, you're dumb, that's bad too. Inside of compete, we can only be task oriented. Emotions must be in neutral. Your only thoughts must be to be a present, and then it's what you do next. Pick the bar up, put the bar down. Pick the bar up, put the bar down. And then when you get good at it, you can get good at breaking it up and understanding where you need to take your breaks.
Yeah.
Shifting out of the compete box requires you to understand your core values so that whatever happens inside compete, good or bad, doesn't bleed off in the other places in your life that are meaningful. So he can leave the barn and walk up into the house and love on his wife. Hillary don't give two craps about CrossFit. Not any. Not one bit.
I can't. I'm starting to think how many times I've fucked up double unders and whipped myself and shit, and I came home being like, "All right, we gotta let that go, huh? We gotta let it go." But I
guys,
fucking
you know who Sam Koiwaye is?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I like to follow now.
We spent a ton of time with this past year. Just this. I mean, the dude is physically capable of being a podium guy. He's a young dude, and he's physically capable of that. And Kenyon, we started talking about stuff like anxiety and where is his power leaking out inside of compete? Where is your power leaking out? If you were just a freaking robot and I could shut your emotions off, which is not possible because we're human. And what would love be without emotion? And what would the thrill of victory be without emotion? All those are important, but they have to be applied properly when we're talking about competing. So he worked hard to develop some mindset tools. He's an overthinker. He's got kind of like a really good analytical mind. And he will.
I'm an engineer, man. This is weird.
There you go.
Say it louder for the people in the back, Jim.
So think about this. If you were in mindset, we'd be working really hard because this idea of engineering, we want to break it down, analyzing all of that. That's in your identity, bro.
Yeah.
I have a feeling he will be a part of Mayhem Mindset after this.
I will after this. I'm like, fuck.
Think about it.
Venmo's on the way.
It's your gift to the world because you're really good at it and it makes you good at your job.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But when you do it in the wrong space, it's your worst enemy, man. You're overanalyzing stuff. This is identity, and this is how you know you've tapped into identity. To compete, God. Rich Froning is the most competitive dude I know, but if he does it in the wrong space, it just makes him an ass.
Yeah, if he does it at home, he's just a dick.
Yeah, you can't stiff arm the kids while you're playing football.
This is what we're trying to uncover. This is purpose. Purpose is in your design, not in what you do. What I want you to be able to do is connect this idea of to analyze as your identity. Then I want you to connect it to values. So how do you properly analyze inside of your value of family? Where does that help you and where does it hurt you? How does it help you when you're competing? Where does it help you and hurt you when you're competing? That's what we're talking about. Then we connect that to a great routine and setting habits and systems in place so that who you be, your identity, it's a blessing in your life and you can use it and it doesn't destroy you.
Because I think
does this make sense?
Yeah, because Ken, especially just as somebody who kind of knows him, analyzing, he does it very well for companies and friends and the benefit of like this podcast and stuff. But I've seen him analyze in competition very quickly what he needs to do to place himself in the best possible scenario to win. He knows if that guy's lifting this much, what can I lift compared to what is the next event and how can I affect my performance there? Analyze it too. And then he'll say, all right, I'll back off here, but I'm going to gas that rower on the next movement.
Yeah.
I'll catch up to this guy. And I know his VO2 max and he knows all that horseshit right now.
Awesome.
And he's smart that way. And he'll just, the next workout, he's 1 1/2 pulls on the rower faster than, say, the guy like me or the next guy. And then next thing I know is I'm like, holy shit, he's done.
He's done now.
Yeah. But think of to use so to use Sam as an example, remember training and competing are two very different things. You tracking with me when I say that?
Yep.
The intensities are very different.
Yeah.
So during the training week, Sam's ability to analyze what he's doing is incredible. He can break it all down, knows right. This is a 30,000 foot view of what he's doing. Strategic, 30,000 foot view. Tactical is inside a compete. It's what to do next, behavior. So his nature to analyze everything hurts him during the CrossFit Games.
Yes.
Because he just needs to do what he needs to do and then shut up.
Just Nike that shit.
Yeah, you got another workout in just another hour and a half, and you can't overanalyze all that. And so power leaks out for him, and he just needs to be quiet, and he has to work on the skill set so that tactically he can think properly. He's really good strategically, but tactically he has to work on that and understand that about himself. That's where power would leak out in his life. He would overanalyze what he just did, and then his emotions get involved, and he's upset. And now we're in a space where our emotions are now taking over. Rich Froning's practiced for so long now, and he's been successful at such a high level that he's you know what he listens to and watches The Office, stupid really? Stuff. If you're talking about during competition, because he doesn't want the pressure of the event is enough. He only wants silly things going on I'm talking about during compete week, just funny things. And he only wants people around him that are we're having fun, man. We're just relaxed because there's so much intensity. You got to relax.
That's funny because when the Open just went by, like every time there was I would get ready to do the Open, I would just literally, me and my fiance would just watch cartoons. I'm like, all I want to do is watch cartoons. I want to watch happy shit. I don't want to watch anything on YouTube that has anything to do with CrossFit. When I hear 3, 2, 1 going, I have to walk up this wall and do whatever God knows I have to do here. I just want to do that. And when I get done, I'm gonna come home. And one thing she tells me she texts me every single day. She's like, I'm proud of you. She's like, you're doing great. I'm proud of you. And I'm like, damn. That feels good.
It's important. You don't want to leave that stuff, right? We want to be intentional about that. When you're competing and there's that kind of and there's that kind of stress, you got to be super what your brain can do, and the intensity levels are really important. You got to know what that is for you.
Yeah. All right. So one of my last questions, because I know you're a busy dude, and I know we could do this all day. So we would love to have you back.
I got to be grandpa. I'm a grand dude. I got about 10 minutes and
sweet. Cool. So this is my last question, and it kind of deals again with the community. There is, like I said before, a group of what looks to be exactly like-minded individuals. They're training to be champions, not champions or nothing, but they're training to be champions in their own right. Rich, we all kind of know, is preparing, and even you've said it, like he's preparing for the next 10 years of his life. Do you see anybody necessarily, or do you just see the group itself prepared to carry on Mayhem the way Rich did? Maybe not at that exact, like, obviously owner, like the face of the franchise type deal, but like this group looks primed to just keep a great family aspect and just like, I don't want to say a franchise, but essentially like that looks like the next wave of draft picks that like will carry this along, because they're all on the same mind track. They're all looking for the same thing. Some may divvy off, I'm sure. But again, like this looks like a very core, solid group of hometown feeling individuals that just want to do the same thing for themselves and one another.
It's really interesting, the people that it attracts. And it's to live in Cookeville, Tennessee is a really interesting thing, because you go down to the gym and there's somebody new moving to Cookeville all the time. I mean, I literally will walk into a coffee shop there and there'll be somebody who sticks their hand out and say, we just moved. We want to be a part of this, you know?
And so at every level, whether it's, people who are going to go to the games or people who are just attracted by this culture, kind of what they see from Rich, there are people coming from all over the place to come be a part of that. And I don't see that. I don't know what Rich is going to do business wise for the future. He hadn't told me that. I have no idea what that'll be, but there isn't any reason why I see any change in what the Mayhem culture is, or what Mayhem's trying to do when it comes to competing and the people that show up here who are capable.
I mean, do you really, is there anybody who kind of stands out as like maybe like a pack leader, kind of like the person who's really bought in, that's going to stick around for a long time?
Yeah, I don't and couldn't answer that question.
Okay.
I don't know what that is. I mean, there are so many people that are so international. We got a Brazilian running around there. There's a Russian dude there right
Isn't
now.
Roman Krinikov coming to Mayhem?
Yeah, he's already there.
He's working there right now. It's such an international thing. I don't know. Yep. If you're asking me, is anybody going to move to Cookeville and stay in Cookeville? I don't know about that. I got no idea.
No, because I look at Chico. The Chico seems like the kind of kid that would like being a fireman in the area and kind of doing.
Yeah, I mean, he's already a Cookeville kid. He's grown up here his whole entire life, and he's got a great career, and so he's going to be here. And I mean, Rich has a whole group of friends that aren't athletes. There's a whole side of life that are this Cookeville, Tennessee. This is who he is. This is what he loves. I mean, I think he was trying to figure out how to learn to rope buffalo the other day or something. That's what he's really interested in. I mean, like,
I see those videos all the time where he's riding that one horse.
God, Jesus. That's so
dangerous. I really don't know what Rich will do. I mean, I don't know in the end when he decides to hang it up. I don't know what his business intentions are. But right now, when it comes to just culture of athletes who want to train, there's people from all over the place showing up here, and
I'm sure he'll stay in it somehow, some way.
Yeah, for sure.
He'll still be a big influence.
Mayhem Athlete is a big deal. That part of the business, the programming, and he's always going to be working out. And he's built in the barn now. There's basically a TV studio in there now. So all that stuff's going to continue and go on. And, I would imagine there'll always be some sort of Mayhem team with somebody competing and people showing up all the time, wanting to be a part of what's going on.
So what's next for you, Jim?
Yeah. What's next for you? What do you got coming up?
I tell you what,
Books.
This course has it's been my baby for so long, and it's growing like crazy, and there's so many opportunities. We'll have an athlete course that's coming out pretty soon. Mm-hmm. It's an extension of this basic course that we have now. So there's a couple new courses that are going to drop. I tell you what, man, I love my life. Like I love working hard. I love being fit. I'm going to get old and die, but I'm going down swinging. I'm super interested in the tactical games. And have you guys seen that?
Yeah, we had.
Yes, that was something else. Yeah.
I'm super interested in that. So Mayhem is going to sponsor. We have a dude here in town. He finished 4th last year at the national championships, and just sort of, he's an Army vet, Iraq and Afghanistan scout sniper kind of a guy, super fit. So we're going to sponsor him. Mayhem's going to sponsor him as our first official Mayhem athlete over in the TAC games. And I'm tagging along.
What's his name?
Justin Betancourt.
No.
Oh, I know who that is.
Oh,
he's a cop. He's a cop, and had been a soldier, and then was a CrossFitter, and so he's super, super capable. So I'm spending all my time kind of doing that kind of workouts at this point, and want to compete in the Masters division of that, and so that's what I'm interested in. So I'm just loving on my wife and trying to spend. My kids are both in Oklahoma now, so I get to see them, and they're much closer now. So. And that's then good. Spending all my time working on growing mindset and having conversations like this, and living with purpose, living well.
Well, we need to do. Oh, go ahead.
What part of Oklahoma? Tulsa. Okay.
Tulsa. Tahlequah, Oklahoma, to be more Broken Arrow, Tahlequah. Yeah.
I had to spend a long time in Lawton, so yeah.
Okay. All right, you know where that.
Haven't had the privilege of being there yet. But we should definitely do this again if you ever have time, Jim. We would love to have you on. This
100%.
Kenya got
a great conversation.
He got a whole Mayhem mindset course out of this. I got 3/4 of that if it wasn't for the Army playing its fuck games. But thank you so much. What if you could tell the people where they can find you?
If you go to mayhemmindset.com, all those resources are right there. If you're interested in this idea of defining yourself and what that would be. So those resources are there. And the one thing I do pay attention to is my Instagram. So that's Jimmy_Hensel on Instagram. So yeah, give me a shout.
And then anybody who's obviously listening to the audio, if you're on Spotify or iTunes, rate the show a 5-star, give us all the comments, all the subscribe, unsubscribe, hit it again, keep doing it a few times, make sure it goes through. Go over like Jim's Instagram photos, all of them, make sure it's the whole thing. And then come back on YouTube, subscribe to us, follow us, go on Instagram, follow us again. Ken will drop all the stuff in the bottom.
Yep.
And you know what? We don't have any sponsors today, Ken. I'm not.
Well, we got Hero Barbell.
Is that we're going that now?
Yeah, we got Hero. I'm just gonna go with Hero Barbell.
Okay. Well, Jim will also tell you this: if Mayhem doesn't have enough barbells for you, go to herobarbell.co. Okay, they have some fantastic barbells. Veteran-owned company out of California,
San Diego. Yep.
San Diego. My gym currently has 6 of them. They are the most popular barbells in the place. They spin extremely well. The knurling is just delicious between the fingers. They take bumps off the ground like better than most, if not any other barbell I've ever had. They got the great colors.
At all.
No, even on just
I like it.
Even straight without any weight, if they hit the ground, they take the bump pretty well. So other than that, Jim, it was great having you on. Go have fun being a granddad, and we'll go have fun being Army dudes. And